Hello, everybody, and welcome into Bad for Baseball, the baddest baseball podcast on the internet. I'm your host, Nicholas Playlog, joined alongside by Adam Peddle. Today, folks, we got to talk about an epic battle going down in the American League East. Baltimore, New York, who is going to emerge on top? This has been the conversation since day one of this season, and it is going right up until the finish line. We're going to break that down, as well as talk about the American League playoff bracket as a whole. Is it already set, or does Detroit have something to say about it? The Astros are pretty good. We're going to glaze them a little bit, as well as Shohei Ohtani. He is doing historic stuff. And let's not forget about maybe MLB's consistent dark horse, the Milwaukee Brewers. Got to show the National League a little bit of love as well. And we're going to talk about them and what they could maybe do in the postseason. Tons of stuff to get into, so make sure you hit that like, smash the subscribe button. Also, shout out to Betway for sponsoring this podcast. Adam, we are effectively exactly 1 month away now. It's September 2nd at the time of recording this video. I don't know exactly when the last day of baseball 29th is, but usually it's something right around there, September 30th or 29th or whatever. So we're effectively 1 month out right now. How are you feeling right now, yourself personally, and then also about this baseball season as a whole?
Well, myself personally, I'm pretty excited. As you guys know, obviously we're big baseball fans, football fans. This is the best time of year. The weather is starting to get a little bit cool. I'm feeling great. I'm excited for football. I'm excited to watch this postseason stretch go down. For me personally, can't be any happier. Once September hit, I literally got a little giggly like a little girl.
Right.
Seeing that September 1 on my phone. Now, in terms of this baseball season, I think this might be, I read an article today, if everything goes on pace, if no one has an extremely amazing month, this could be the first season since 2014 where no team gets 100 wins. So every team could be in the running to make a really great splash at a postseason berth, make a great attempt at the World Series. So really, it's anybody's game. It really doesn't feel like there's any dominant force. Obviously, the Dodgers, they have the highest record in baseball, 82 wins, but they don't even feel like they're a dominant force because of all the injuries they've had, underperformances. Obviously, Ohtani's amazing, but I literally saw an article saying even without Ohtani's hit last night, the Dodgers managed to win. So it's like they have a lot of things that need to go right for them to even win a game. So yeah, I'm really excited to see who's going to come out on top because there's a lot of storylines that could change in the coming weeks.
That whole 100-win conversation right there, how somebody or nobody might hit it actually. Part of that sucks because I personally just love to see the 3 digits right there. I don't know, there's something sexy about seeing 101 wins next to some team's name, even if it isn't my favorite squad, and let me tell you, it's actually never been before. However, on the flip side of things, it is partially exciting because it means that walking into 2025 or even this year, it's almost anybody's game. It really is almost anybody's game. You look at some of the turnarounds that we've seen this season. Kansas City Royals, I know that we're going to talk about them a little bit. They were dog water last season.
Not even 60 wins.
Not even, and now all of a sudden, they're in this postseason race, they can make a serious push, and that's the case for a lot of squads out there. So, the fact that there is no dominant force, even though we have these $300 million payrolls on the Dodgers and Mets and whatever, it is kind of refreshing because walking into next season, maybe you do see some wild characters. Maybe you see the Detroit Tigers, who, by the way, are surging right now, everybody. Maybe you see them emerge and do a little something.
Yeah, the only dominant force is really in the loss column, and that's the Chicago White Sox.
Oh, they're doing something special, baby.
I think they're at 107 losses right now, if I'm not mistaken.
It is a franchise record what they have done, and they still have, I think, 24 more games to play. They've had a franchise record loss, 24 more games to play.
I think to beat the record of most losses, to not break the record, to avoid that feat, they have to go 12-13.
Impossible.
You really think the White Sox are going 12-13?
This is the worst baseball team that we've ever seen ever, and I can love it, everybody. Let's talk about that American League East, though, all right? Baltimore, New York Yankees, they were both walking into this season considered I'd say top 5 teams in baseball, right?
Yeah.
Everybody was looking at them as the guys, and that has, for the most part, been true. Both of them, throughout different times this season, have kind of had their hiccups, their ups and downs, their, whatever roadblocks, everything like that. But here we are, 24 more games to play, within half a game of one another. And I do believe that both of them will play each other again at some point, so that series is going to be freaking crazy.
Right.
Who do you like right now out of Baltimore and New York, half a game away from one another?
Yeah, it's been really interesting to see the season progress. I mean, Baltimore seemed to be like the team, and then the last little bit, they've been kind of mid, honestly. Like they're 14-14 in the last 28 games, so they're literally right around 500. And a lot of that has to do with they've dealt with a ton of injuries. I mean, Eflin looks like he's back, but a lot of their guys are injured in that starting rotation. You've got Grayson Rodriguez hits the 15-day IL.
Yeah.
Kyle Brash been injured for time. Means been injured for time. Tyler Wells injured for time. And they've kind of had to put together a rotation. Obviously, Burns, we know he's on the team, so we don't need to talk about him. He's a dominant force. But a lot of these guys have had to step up in the rotation. They've actually been doing the better half. They've been doing better on that side of the ball than the offensive side of the ball. They're actually 22nd in OPS in their last 30 days. That almost seeming like juggernaut, young, youthful team that it was dominating in OPS, dominating in runs scored, kind of cooled off. And in the last little bit, they've been mid. And, down the stretch, what matters the most isn't what you did in April, May, or June and getting hot then. What matters is what you're doing right now in the September month leading into postseason. So if they're on this track of just kind of mid to cool, I'm actually going to hop on the Yankees because their pitching's just been as equally as good.
Right.
And they've been slugging with, obviously, we know who,
Yeah.
Judge, Soto, and they actually got Anthony Rizzo back. A lot of the guys are doing well. They're third in OPS in the last 30 days. So for me, it's whoever's hot. And right now they're equal. Yankees are hotter, so I'm on the Yankees right now going down the stretch.
I hear that. I really do, man. I mean, I've kind of been a Baltimore Orioles stan, I guess, just with the way that they've built their organization, built their team.
Absolutely.
I think they've done a beautiful job over there. But you're right. The only thing that ultimately matters is who is hitting the baseball with the most authority come September. And right now, the New York Yankees are up there. One thing that I will give to the Baltimore Orioles, though, I took a look at the strength of schedule, and they do have a much easier strength of schedule than the New York Yankees. The New York Yankees are ranked 10th in strength of schedule, so, a little bit tougher than average. Just some of their key opponents. One of them is Baltimore Orioles. Another one is the Kansas City Royals. They got Boston for 4 games. They got Seattle in there as well. So a couple tough matchups right there, ranking them at 10th. Their strength of schedule, their winning percentage or the teams that they're facing is 503, over 50%.
Right.
Whereas the Baltimore Orioles have the 26th easiest strength of schedule. They do have New York, but then after that, it gets real easy. They got 3 games against the White Sox, put 3 in the win column for there.
Right.
You got Tampa Bay, but Tampa Bay's kind of fallen off a bit. San Francisco feels like they're dead in the water. So just something to note right there, slight advantage to the Baltimore Orioles in terms of strength of schedule, and that does matter when you're talking about a race that is this tight here. We're looking at literally half a game. I am starting to lean more Yankees as well.
Yeah.
However, that being said, shout out to Betway. I do have a season-long bet that has the Baltimore Orioles winning the division. And for that reason alone, I am going to stick with the Baltimore Orioles just because of my bias. But realistically, I think that all of this is going to get decided in that one series that they play against each other.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, even talking about, you win the division or you don't win the division. Yeah, obviously that's a huge thing to win the division because, here's the thing. This is an interesting note going down the stretch. Look at the American League right now. You look how close these division leaders are. You got Yankees at 79. They're leading all American League teams. Cleveland Guardians at 78. Houston at 75. You got to imagine they're going to catch up in a matter of time. They've been one of the hottest teams in baseball.
Yeah.
So even if you win your division between Baltimore and New York, there could be a reality where they're third and they're still in the wild card. So either way, they're going to the dance. So I think what's really going to be interesting to look at is who's going to play well in the playoffs. Right? Who's going to do well in that short game series? Because I think obviously they're both going to make it unless a total disaster happens that we can't predict. They're both going to make it. I'm curious to see what the hell happens in that because I look at the Baltimore Orioles. I look at last year and they got swept. and it's like that was the first team, and I liked that team, and they were the baby team, and they got swept. I need to see the Orioles do it a little bit more in this postseason.
Well, obviously, right? I mean, like they haven't won a game yet.
Yeah.
Granted, we've only seen one time for
season.
them being there. I think honestly, like for the division win and that whole conversation, it is more of a bragging rights thing. It is more of a home field advantage because I'm assuming that whoever wins the American League East is going to be the number one team in all of the American League. Potentially, yeah. Depends how things go. Right now, that would be the case. But then also, from a bragging rights standpoint, that'd be 2 back-to-back years where the Baltimore Orioles win the division. In the American League East, that is really damn tough to do, when you're dealing with Boston, when you're dealing with New York, So for that team to do that, like that would be, I think, kind of the beginning foundations. Obviously, we got to see success in the postseason, but the beginning foundations of what this potential dynasty, run with this young core could be if you can win back-to-back times with that division. So we will see how it goes down. But just speaking about the American League as a whole, it's starting to feel a bit more set. And just because when you look at the wild card, the next best squad, you get the Kansas City Royals, who we're going to discuss. They got a really important series coming up. You get the Kansas City Royals, but then you got a 4.5 game drop all the way down to the Boston Red Sox. And the Boston Red Sox, who were looking really solid for a period of time, have, completely fallen off the table. They're 3-7 in the last 10. They're 70-67. That's their record across the season. They got a +8 run differential. Like it feels like the Red Sox are kind of coming around to what we all expected them to be at the beginning of the season, which is maybe just a 500 or a slightly above 500 team, and not really threatening anybody for a wild card spot right now.
Yeah, I'm looking over at their team right now, and like obviously you got some good pitching performances from Houck and Bayo, but a lot of their guys that were kind of doing a lot of good stuff for them early in the year, like Cutter Crawford, falling off the table. Last 30 days, the ERA is almost at 6. You got Nick Pivetta falling off the table, ERA at 5.23. Cooper Criswell, he's come up a little bit, pitched a little bit for them. He's not been good. Their bullpen has not been good. Yeah, it kind of sucks because they're right there, and we thought they were going to be very competitive for a while, and it just looks like that even though they got Devers and even though they got Duran in the offense, it's just – and they got a lot of good offensive guys too, like a lot of offensive guys. They had Willer Abreu breakout. He's been solid. I don't know why it's just not coming together for them. And they've always needed to do something at the deadline to get pitching. We had a Boston guy come in our chat the other day talking like, wow, we need to get rid of this, like, our management. It's been awful. Year after year after year. We cannot add at the deadline because they were looking promising all the way up to the deadline. I would have said, hell, they're sneaky wildcard team.
Sure.
And they literally don't do anything. And I don't know why that is. Is it a mentality thing? Is it a cheap thing?
No, it's a Boston Red Sox. I don't think we can say that it's a cheap thing,
they haven't done it. They haven't spent.
I hear that, but they still do, like they're always up there in payroll, right? They are always up there. I think they're in the top 10 if I'm not mistaken. Right. But I will agree with you that we're not going above and beyond. We're not going above and beyond and getting it done. Like we're kind of sitting idly by, and you've seen that for the past couple of years now, where it's like Boston has always been around this mark where it's like, well, we're good. Yeah. We're not great. We're not exceptional. I think we got some star power, but we're really not, we're not blowing the doors off. But it does feel like they're 1 or 2 pieces away from, really being in that, AL East conversation.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there at least a wild card.
Bro, like I'm looking, even like Yoshida's been turning it on lately. Like you have a lot of good pieces. This is such a different mentality than the Red Sox that I've like grown up knowing. The Red Sox I grew up knowing was it's World Series or bust. It was like them, Dodgers, Yankees, like it was World Series or bust.
Yeah.
And like they've just kind of let their franchise fall into this like middling tier. And it's really weird. I don't know, someone let us know in the chat, Red Sox fans, when did that happen? Was there a management switch over, like a general management switch over, or a presidential switch over?
Kind of feels like ever since Mookie Betts got traded, that was like we're just taking we're mid now. Like that's the thing. I don't want to say that we're going downhill because we've kind of you hit your floor and then you've just like been around this like purgatory level.
Yeah.
And it's it really isn't that bad. In the grand scheme of things, we're talking down about a team that's 70-67. You know what I mean? Like our favorite franchise is below 500, and there are many other squads that are below 500. So the Boston Red Sox, like, being bad is, being around this 500 mark. I think it's just frustrating because from an outside perspective, you look at that team and you go, wow, fuck, you do have Rafael Devers and you do have, Jarren Duran. And for the beginning of the season, your pitching was the best in baseball. Like, it was actually insane, right? So you have all this stuff going right, and you don't go above and beyond. Like, it feels like a missed opportunity. So I certainly hear you in that regard. And the fact that now you're 3-7 in the last 10, it's kind of fallen apart here. And the Kansas City Royals, they're leaving the door open. They've lost 5 in a row. The door would be open if you were playing better baseball. Detroit Tigers are kind of trying to take advantage of that. I still don't know if they're going to make it or not. But Boston, you would have liked to see a bit more at the deadline to potentially capitalize on what's happening right now in Kansas City.
Yeah, even though they're 4.5 games back of wild card, 4.5 games in a month, it seems easy, but you got to have a lot of things go right. You need the 3 teams above you in the wild card to kind of regress, and then you need to go on a heater. And based on the way the Boston Red Sox are playing right now, 20th in OPS last 30 days, 25th in ERA. I don't see it happening. I was all over them, and now I really don't think. I think the Tigers have a way better chance to making playoffs than they do.
Is this American League bracket right now of and they might move without right, but with the teams of New York, Cleveland, Houston, Baltimore, Minnesota, Kansas City, is that set? Is anybody getting ousted from that? Can you see Detroit? Can you see Boston? Could you see Seattle, for instance? Right. I think Tampa Bay and Toronto, they're a little bit too far out. But, is any one of those squads going to knock one of these teams away?
Well, literally, I think the Tigers are the only team that got an opportunity, just how hot they've been. I mean, me, I love pitching. Their offense has been good enough. They're pitching a second in baseball in the last month. And when I look over at teams like the Twins and the Royals, they got to really hang on because the Royals, as we know, have been struggling. Their pitching has been falling apart lately. They got a great rotation. I think they can patch it up, but the Twins have been falling apart. So many injuries. Correa, Buxton. We just watched the series with the Blue Jays, and yes, they won that series. The Twins.
They flirted with losing.
They got outscored heavily.
Yeah,
they got blown the hell up. So there was a lot of opportunity where they almost lost to the Toronto Blue Jays. So if the Twins are, for me, the team that could be ousted if the Tigers continue on this hot stretch.
Yeah, the Detroit Tigers, everybody, for those who are unfamiliar right now, they're above 500. They got a record of 70 and 68. And you know what? That deserves a little hats off right there for Detroit, because honestly, if you guys can finish above 500 or around 500 in a year where you sell off your pieces, that is a massive W in my opinion. However, if you go above and beyond, continue doing what you're doing. They're 8-2 in their last 10, folks. They're 8-2 in their last 10. I believe that is the best last 10 in baseball, and I would be correct in thinking that.
Other than the Cubs. Cubs are 9-1. Cubs aren't Cubs are a whole other story. Yeah. Cubs are insane.
Damn. All right. Shout out to Chicago Cubs. My mistake. Second best last 10 in baseball, but 8-2 for the Detroit Tigers. If you could make a play, that for me would be such a beautiful Cinderella story. I almost don't want to see Kansas City drop out though, because I love what Bobby Witt Jr. is doing, and they've also been through a terrible stretch for a while now. Effectively since 2015, 2016, they've been bad at baseball. So the fact that they're back here, it's like I kind of want them to hold on. But if you can fight those Minnesota Twins, I'm all for it.
Yeah, and for the Royals, I've been kind of in their camp. For me, looking at both American League and National League. National League, I was kind of in the camp of the Pirates. You guys can do it. And they didn't. And then the Royals, on the other hand, I'm like, okay, they're actually doing it. And they have a chance to break into that, to win the division. Not just wild card, but to win the division. The Cleveland Guardians, they're scuffling. I think they're 12-17 in the last month of baseball.
Damn,
they are really. The Guardians. I'm talking about. The Guardians are really struggling. 12-17, whereas the Royals, they've been 3-7 in their last 10. But like I said, they did a great job building that rotation with Lugo, Waka, and they got Reagan's breaking out. It feels like if they could just get through this rough patch of this poor pitching performance and get back and ride the hot train with Bobby Witt. Then they can make some magic because they're only 3.5 games out. You can see 3.5 games get taken over in that time with a struggling Guardians team.
Yeah, of course, right? But again, like that's the story. What is your true identity, right? We just had this conversation about Baltimore, New York, where it's like, well, Baltimore, can you guys like weather the storm right now of what you're going through, right? And like Kansas City, are you capable of doing it as well? Like, that's what it takes to win your division. That's going to be an electric series of baseball right there between Kansas City and Cleveland, and we'll probably have some massive implications, obviously, on that division title. But it is really interesting to see that the Cleveland Guardians, the Minnesota Twins, and the Kansas City Royals, it's like effectively all at the same time. Now we're all like struggling, and it's probably the worst possible time to do it too in September, because if you do leave the door open wide enough and Detroit somehow magically takes over for one of you guys, that is just going to be a gross fumble of the bag from one of you if you let that happen. You're talking
about the wild card, right?
Yes, I'm talking about the wild card.
Because Detroit's still 8.5 back from the lead.
Wow, Jesus, if they win the goddamn division, like
you
that
all
would be insane.
Suck.
Yeah,
you all suck. Yeah, no, it's really, really. I'm really interested. You got like you mentioned, Guardians against Royals next 3 games, and then you've got the Royals up against the Twins after that. So this week for the Royals is huge, and then they got the Yankees in the following week, and then they got the Tigers, Pirates, Giants, Nationals, and they end this season with the Braves. So the Royals got some competition.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now. According to this website right here, they have the Kansas City Royals as the 7th hardest strength of schedule to finish out the season. Finding some of those other AL Central teams, you got the Minnesota Twins, they're 14th, and then Cleveland, which is 16th. So Kansas City's got the toughest road according to this. Can you do it? And
it's actually tough. They I wanted to mention this. They just lost Vinny Pasquantino.
Yeah, that is a blow.
6 to 8 weeks, and he was. And I know this because when I was on my fantasy team, he was like going nuclear, hitting bombs. That's huge. I mean, yeah, Bobby Witt's great, but we all know you can't carry a franchise with one dude, so they're gonna need him and Perez are gonna kind of carry the weight of that Royals lineup.
Again, weather the storm, right? Weather the storm. Like, whether it be them, whether it be your bullpen gets going at the right time, or a couple of starting pitchers, really start to figure it out. Like, somebody's got to pick up the weight right now, because this is crunch time. We always talk about how baseball is such a battle of attrition, right? Like, it's, that endurance until the end. This is where, the men get separated from the boys. Can you make it through what is the toughest stretch of baseball right now, when your body's hurting and you're thinking about vacation, and when you want to go home and see your wife and see your kids? Can you do it? Is it worth it for you to go and to weather that and to win a chip? We'll see from this Kansas City Royals team. Let's move over to the National League a little bit and talk about what I think is the darkest horse in baseball. And they always play this role. They're always the dark horse in the MLB. Quick shout out, though, before we get into this, to Greta Bar, everybody. They're going to be sponsoring this segment where we talk about the dark horse in baseball. If you haven't already done so, go check out Greta Bar. Over 50 arcade games. They play all of the MLB games. Wonderful food, wonderful staff and everything. Phenomenal. It's in downtown Toronto and several other locations across Canada, so you definitely want to go check them out. The team that I am referring to is the Milwaukee Brewers. They have, for I think years now, just always been in that conversation of being very good. Yeah. We are not in the tippity top tier of baseball teams, but we are very good. However, you look around the league right now, there are 3 teams with 80 wins. It's the Los Angeles Dodgers. Okay, we could have expected that. It's the Philadelphia Phillies. And then would you look at that? It's the Milwaukee freaking Brewers with a record of 80-57. I feel like they are a squad right now that nobody is talking about. We're giving so much love to the Phillies, so much love to the Dodgers, putting, shining a light on this AL East battle, and not a single person is looking at these Milwaukee Brewers as an actual threat in the postseason.
Yeah, and I think the reason why is because, they're like, oh, well, you're going to pick up so many W's off your division. You know what I mean?
True.
They got 8 wins off the Cubs. They probably did that earlier in the season when they were struggling. 9 wins off the Reds, and then what else? Here? Yeah, you split it 5-5 against the Pirates, so there you go. That's one thing. But they swept the White Sox. I mean, who didn't sweep the White Sox this year?
Yeah, everyone
swept the White Sox. But regardless, they are getting wins, and I think that's why we always see them kind of like rise at top, get so many win totals, and then it's like when postseason comes around, they get stiffed by some harder competition. But I know that they have been pretty good against some teams above 500 this year.
Well, they've got a positive record. Apparently, they're 48-40 against teams who are above 500 or equal to 500. So, they are picking up more wins than losses against quality opponents. So that is absolutely something to note. The thing that I keep coming back to with this Milwaukee Brewers team and why I think I like them. We always talk about how pitching wins championships, but it's not always starting pitching. And they do have. Let me be very clear right now.
Good.
They do have very good starting pitching, but their bullpen is even better than that. They got a bullpen ERA of 2.8 that is tied with the Cleveland Guardians for the best in baseball. And listen to this. So you got Cleveland, you got Milwaukee at 2.8. The next best squad, bullpen ERA-wise, is the Atlanta Braves at 3.31. That is more than half a run of difference between the third best team in baseball and Cleveland and Milwaukee. They are far and away the best bullpen in the National League, and we know how tough it is to get through an elite bullpen when they are firing. When you can't pick up a run from inning 6 until inning 9, it's tough to win ball games.
That's the thing. And what's different for them this year is normally in the postseason, what would be their Achilles heel is they'd face another good offensive team. Maybe their pitching gives up a lot of runs, then they can't come back. This year, they actually got a great offense. Last 30 days, I like to look at the recency.
Yeah.
Willy Adames, he has a 1.002 OPS. Contreras, 980 OPS. And then Jackson Chourio, the rookie, he's showing up in the last 30 days, 318 batting average with an OPS of 932, and he's got 5 homers, 7 doubles, and 2 triples.
Exciting.
So he's exciting. I know we always talk about Jackson Merrill, and you talk about Paul Skeens for Rookie of the Year. He'll get a couple votes his way just because he's starting to show up a little bit in this back half, but that's a guy that they need. And you know how the Brewers, with their payroll, they need to get a little bit of that nice juicy value out of those rookie contracts, and this guy is going to be a great piece for them for the next coming years. And that will be the difference makers. If they get blown up in the early going, because if their pitching has a great game, they will probably win. But they need an offensive guy to face the offensive guys to face opposing pitchers and take them down this year.
Well, in the last 30 days, as a team, they are ranked 6th in OPS. So very solid, and they are ranked 3rd in team-wide ERA. That to me spells, at very least, NLCS type things, right? If you are performing at that level, walking into the playoffs, you are, top 6 in offense and top 3 in pitching.
Right.
It's going to be a really hard out for whoever you deal with, regardless if it's the Dodgers or, the Phillies who you run into. This is not a walk-over squad anymore. The resurgence of Christian Yelich is something that we very rarely talked about. I know that he is done
That's unfortunate.
But for a long time, he was popping off, and now you are getting. It's kind of like Jackson Chourio is filling in that gap right there. So I like this team a lot. I do think that they are baseball's biggest dark horse in just terms of the fact that we're not giving them enough media coverage right now. Looking at the strength of schedule, they have a bit of a hard way to go. They're ranked 9th in terms just, ahead of the New York Yankees. So they're going to have a couple tough matchups going on. But with the 3rd best record in baseball and effectively nobody challenging them for that division, they are a lock for playoffs at this point. And now if I'm them, I'm just trying to stay healthy and keep the rhythm going.
Yeah, and what's funny is they got the 3rd best record in baseball, but they're still 3rd because all the best teams are in the NL.
Yes.
They're still 3rd in division leaders, so they will be at this rate in the wild card series. So for them, if they could somehow overtake the Phillies or the Dodgers, whatever it might be, and get yourself into the ALD or NLDS, huge.
Yeah.
Huge. Just get yourself ready, get yourself healthy, because for them, they need to go on a little bit of a run, and I've seen too many times them get knocked out in the wild card, get knocked out in the division series. Give yourself less series to play so you can get a little bit further.
So, actually, that we weren't even planning on talking about this, but this has always been a conversation. Do you think that it's a positive or a negative when you get the bye?
I think it all depends on your actual players and what they prefer, because pitchers sometimes will do worse if they have a little bit more time of rest. They have to do simulated games. It's just not the same. But on the flip side of things, maybe your pitchers are banged up and they actually do really need
Yeah.
that extra 5 days or whatever it might be for rest. So there could be a benefit and a negative to both. Again, it all depends on your team. So I really can't say one is better than the other.
Yeah.
You know?
No, and like I do think probably statistically speaking, it's like you'd think if you do the simulation 1,000 times, like you'll make it further on average if you have the bye, just because again you're avoiding the possibility of getting eliminated early on. However, I do find, and this I feel like this is like across sports in general. You know, like I've seen my football team get the bye several times and then walk into the following game, and it's like, oh, like we're a little bit out of sorts. It takes us a quarter and a bit to get going, and by that point, game's already over. And you know, you've seen that in baseball too, where it's like, well, now they like, you know, the rotation is like we're not doing our 5 days consistently, and like, oh, we've just had a couple days on the bench type thing. Just a little bit cooled off compared to some of those other squads. So I think there's something to be said for being in the wild card, winning dominantly, and then like moving on and keeping the train rolling. However, you're probably right in the sense of, you know, the bye giving some health would be beneficial.
Well, I mean, we've seen it in the last few years. Some teams that win wild card, they go on to the World Series just because they continue to roll and they're
it's
still
just
hot.
You're still going.
You know?
You're like there's no cooling off at all. We're not slowing down. I mean, I feel this way like. Obviously to a lesser extent, but like even when I go to the gym or something like that, like if I take a moment, like if I'm like in the rhythm and I'm going, then it's like I feel like I can just keep going. Whereas like if I like take like 2 minutes or 3 minutes and just like sit down and like take a little breather, it's like harder to get started again, you know, and keep it up. And I feel like the same thing goes just to a larger scale when we're talking about, you know, playoffs and baseball and everything like that.
Yeah. No, I mean, we'll see what happens. I was looking at the Dodgers, and like I have this theory where it's like the Dodgers, the reason why they always make playoffs, but then they never win the World Series, only in 2020 when they won it. They made it so many times, but like don't have a good record in the postseason. It's because they always win the division, and then they always get the bye, and then they're out of sorts. They get knocked out in the DS or the CS, and it's like so I was just thinking like maybe that's it. Who knows?
I mean, you know, there could be something to be said for that. You know, there really could be. Let us know in the comments down below, folks. Shout out to Greta once again. Go check them out. Also, we got to be checking out Yordan Alverez a little bit more, folks. Yordan Alverez, I don't want to say that he is the most underrated player in baseball because I think that people do properly rate him, but I would argue that we don't talk about him nearly enough with what he does on a day-to-day basis for these Houston Astros. Houston is arguably one of, or, you know, if not the hottest team in baseball, you know, certainly could be. They've won 5 in a row at the time of recording this video. Their pitching is ranked first in the last 30 days with an ERA of 2.51. The Astros are inevitable. We always knew this, but we do need to take a moment and just talk about how goddamn incredible Yordan Alverez. He just hit his 30th home run. He hit his 29th and his 30th in the same game. So that's something that just happened. And you look at the numbers from Yordan Alverez, like, I don't know why. Maybe it's because he's, you know,
probably because he's a
DH or, you know, like maybe that's it. But the fact that we're not, you know, seriously considering this guy as an, you know, MVP candidate year in and year out is almost a disservice to what he does every day.
I mean, if we were just looking at like notoriety and name value, and you know, other than this year, the last 4 years, he's been not in the All-Star game or not starting in the All-Star game because of Shohei Ohtani.
That's ridiculous.
Because of Ohtani. And it's like, okay, yeah, I understand that, but he's just as good, if not, could even be, you could argue, better offensively. I mean, this year Ohtani's having a phenomenal year because maybe he's just focusing everything on his offense. But with Yordan Alverez, I saw this the other day, and what impresses me the most about him is, yes, overall the numbers are phenomenal, but it's how he's doing it is what's most impressive with me. Everyone would just look at him and go, "Oh, you're a big guy. You just power the ball over the wall. You muscle it over no matter what." Well, I've been watching Alvarez this year very closely, and it's not just that. Yes, he's very strong and he makes great contact. It goes over the wall, but he has the ability to understand how pitchers are pitching to him, make a mid at bat adjustment, and do damage on those pitches. I've seen it time and time again. The changeup, he'll get all the time away, right? Because, you know, you don't want to come inside. You want to kind of fool him. Maybe start him up with the fastballs, go change up away, get him out in front, swing and missing. He'll notice that immediately. Oh, you're pumping me fastballs. Oh, there's a changeup. You wanted me to swing and miss. Well, now, if you give me another fastball, I'm probably looking over the plate. You're going to be another changeup.
Yeah.
And I've seen it time and time again, a changeup away, him hit it over the wall opposite field, or even he'll pull it. He's like, oh, I know the chance was there, so I'm just going to adjust my body, lean in a bit, pull it. I'm looking at Baseball Savant. Run values, yes, the number one pitch he hits is the sinker and fastball, 7 run value. But right there, the changeup and the split finger change, 6. So he knows exactly, oh, if you're going to attack me with fastball to put away, I'm going to put that over the fence. Or you're going to attack me with changeup to put away, I'm going to hit that over the fence.
Yeah.
He's so smart, and I got to give him some credit because I don't think people give him enough credit. Maybe Houston fans do, but outside fans, MLB fans, this guy's an intelligent hitter.
Yeah, this is not just some dumb meathead who's a big boy
who
can hit hard.
Balls.
You know, it's like he certainly does do that, but there is a lot more going on upstairs than you may think. I was looking at this, and I wasn't even aware of this, actually. I got his, all of his season-long stats up. Did you know that this is the 4th year in a row that he's going to hit 30 home runs or more? This is the 4th season in a row.
Yeah,
it's like he had 33, 37, 31. Now he's at 30, so he will be getting more than that as the season progresses. Yeah. But that is just a mark of absolute consistency. And then you look at the career numbers. All right, you look at this. Blew me away. He's got an OPS of 976. That is the career. That is not one season. That is the career. You look at the active leaders. He is not qualified for this yet, because he needs roughly 400 more plate appearances. But keep in mind, this guy's played 610 games. He's got 2,500 plate appearances already, almost 2,600. So this is not a short sample size, all right? He has played a lot of time, but he still needs just a little bit more to get there. But once he does, he will be ahead of Juan Soto in terms of OPS. He will be the third highest active player in OPS, just behind Aaron Judge and Mike Trout.
Wow.
We are talking about somebody who needs to be in that conversation more, because we glaze the hell out of Juan Soto time and time again, and I do believe that he could be a generational talent, but why not Yordan Alverez in that same conversation?
I mean, what's the whole thing with Juan Soto? He's got a great eye at the plate, you know, and yes, absolutely. But Yordan Alvarez, he's also got an OPS.
He's right there with him.
On base of 400 this year.
Yep.
You know what's he's got and like if you compare that to his batting average, 314. So he's got a great range, difference there of on base and average. Yeah, I think you're right where people underrate him because he's a DH.
Yes.
It's like, oh, he doesn't have that star ability. He came up when there was a lot of people in Houston already. You had George Springer there, you had Correa there, you had Bregman there. He's still there, obviously. So there's a lot of other stars in that mix, and he was kind of the fourth guy coming up. But there needs to be a lot more respect, and the conversation needs to be: is he on pace to be one of the greatest hitters of all time?
He actually has a chance with what he's doing right now.
And he's not even peaking yet, bro. He's still 27.
I know. That's the thing. Like, you still have him for so long, and you look at that contract that they actually got him for. Like Houston did it perfect here, folks. Houston did it perfect. I know he's a DH, but if you were to let this guy walk into free agency with what he's doing now, like, this is, we're talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of $1 million. So they did it perfectly, locking him down early. Now, the question that I have for you, and the question that I have for the chat, because I'm sure that we'll probably have some Houston Astro fans coming in here. If you had to pick one for the remainder of their career, factoring in everything that they do on the field,
right?
Yordan Alvarez or Kyle Tucker, who do you want on your baseball team? It's a tough question.
Yeah, because they offer different things. Where Tucker gives you the stolen base, the defense. I mean, also one thing to note: he has played a little bit of left field this year, 45 games, at 83 DH. So there's something there. If you need to put him out there, he'll do it.
I wonder what those numbers look like. Defensively speaking. Right?
Yeah. I mean, actually, he's got a fielding percentage of 985 in the outfield.
Oh, that's pretty good. I think
he's committed 1 error. 3 outfield assists. I mean, it's fine.
You're getting the job done.
Yeah, defensively speaking. I mean, it's above average. It's 31, or it's like -5. That's above average. Okay, whatever. It's fine. Who cares?
Yeah,
but
you make that up in one game at the dish.
Yeah, exactly. So Kyle Tucker. Let me just quickly flash over to him. I mean, obviously my gut wants to say Yordan. Yeah, because it's just for me. Give me the bat. We'll go get some outfielders to defensively replace or whatever. But Tucker's so good. They're the same age.
Yes.
They're both 27. Tucker's actually defense isn't even that much better. I might go Alvarez, honestly, just for the bat.
I think
There's not if you have a chance to add a show, not Shohei, maybe close to it. I think he's better overall in his career than Shohei.
Well, I'll tell you right now.
He is.
Again, we're talking about once he gets qualified, we're 400 plate appearances away, folks.
Right.
That's not that much. He will be ahead of Juan Soto, ahead of Shohei, ahead of Bryce Harper, ahead of Ronald Acuna Jr.
Just not Trout and Judge. If you were
Just not Trout and Judge.
So if you were to add a guy like Trout or Judge to your team, you'd be laughing. So I'll take Alverez.
Yeah, you know what? I actually, when I first initially asked that question, I thought it might be a little bit closer, just because Kyle Tucker this season was doing incredible. But keep in mind, Kyle Tucker this season, we were glazing him so much. This season, he had a 979 OPS when he was healthy. That's roughly the same as Alvarez's career.
Exactly.
So it's like
your
ceiling of ceilings. You're hitting what this guy does on a yearly basis.
Right.
Yordan Alverez is fucking amazing. Houston fans, you got to be so happy that you have this guy on your team, that you home grew this guy.
And he's so big. Let me just say, every time I've seen this dude in person, we go to a Houston Blue Jays game. Holy God. We're far away in the nosebleeds, but I can definitely tell that man out there is Yordan Alvarez. That is a monster.
Yeah, 100%, man. 4.9 WAR on the season as a DH. Damn good. Houston Astros cooking once again. They are going to make a deep postseason run, just as they do time and time again. I didn't ask you when we were talking about the American League, but I was thinking, because I actually didn't ask you because I thought it was just obvious.
Right.
But the question that I was thinking about asking was, who do you like out of the American League? For me, it's obvious.
Houston. I think we talked about this the other week. If you were to pick someone to go back to the World Series, it's Houston.
It's Houston.
Everyone else is cooling off.
Everyone's cooling off. You are heating up at the right time. You got this guy doing ridiculous shit. Justin Verlander, he's going to be there. You got your pitching is just
phenomenal.
I don't even know how it's this good. It shouldn't be this good.
Yusei Kikuchi's dominating.
I know, man. I know. We made a whole video. Everybody loved it. We were talking about how we initially thought they got fleeced. In fact, they fleeced the Toronto Blue Jays, because now Yusei Kikuchi's a goddamn Cy Young candidate at this point over there in Houston. This Houston Astros team is just inevitable. I hate it because I'm not a Houston fan, but I do respect what you guys are doing.
Before we move on, so we got Houston. That's our prediction to go to the World Series. NL's a lot harder.
I don't know, man.
NL's so much harder, dude.
I literally have no idea. I could see so many of these squads, obviously the Dodgers are there, and you think that you'd see Ohtani and Mookie Betts doing it. However, we just talked about the Milwaukee Brewers and how they could be a sneaky squad if they get, I could see the Milwaukee Brewers playing boring baseball and somehow finding themselves there. Arizona Diamondbacks, Corbin Carroll in the last month has suddenly become one of the hottest players in baseball.
MVP again.
He's back in the MVP. But if he
conversation,
he's doing what it would take to be the MVP, and they are going absolutely insane right now. So that's a squad who's getting hot at the right time. Philadelphia, we know what they're capable of. Honestly, maybe one of the better question is who I don't think's going to do it. And for the first time in a very long time, I'll say that I don't think the Atlanta Braves are going to be there.
Actually, they're the weakest team right now, I'd say.
Yes. Yes.
And for me, I'm still going to stick with the Phillies just because, I look at all the teams. Dodgers, they have a lot of holes. They have a lot of holes. I think are going to expose them in the postseason. Phillies are just rock solid, dude.
Phillies are rock solid, and they just had a series against the Atlanta Braves where they won that series.
Easy.
Just proving once again, it's we can beat good teams. When it is time in the postseason, when we're up against these squads who should be solid, we can win those games. Philadelphia Phillies, top to bottom, are absolutely elite. Probably they'd be my pick as well, but the National League for me is actually a lot closer than the American League, where it's I would if I had to bet my life, it would go on the Houston Astros.
Yeah. So Phillies and Astros rematch.
Phillies Astros rematch.
What year was that? 2022?
No, was that?
Yeah, and Astros I think won it in 2022. Yeah, and they faced the Phillies. I think so. Someone correct us, but I'm pretty sure that was it. I remember watching that.
I think, no, you're right. You are right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It was the Astros. For some reason, I thought the Phillies were up against somebody else, but no, you're 100% right. It was the Astros, and the Astros ended up taking it away. That would be exciting, man.
Yeah.
Little redemption story for Mr. Bryce Harper and the boys. Can they get it done? I'll be honest. I don't think so, because Houston's just that damn good. Let's move on and do a little more glazing of somebody else who is pretty solid. Another DH. We're showing some. You know what? This episode's all about showing love to the DHs over there.
Shohei
Ohtani. This guy has perfected his craft, dude. 44 home runs, 43 stolen bases. He just became the first player ever to hit 43-43.
I love that we're getting that specific.
We're getting that specific, but, I mean, nobody else has done that before. It would be a lot more sexy, though, if he was to hit that 50-50 mark, because those numbers just look good. And right now, he is on pace to do so.
Yeah, he's on pace. That's it, man. Like that's what's so special about Shohei Ohtani. And if I was looking at his game logs, and like it feels like every game he'll either get a homer or a stolen base or both. Like it's like he'll get one or the other. So for me, it gives me confidence that he's gonna do it. And they're gonna need Shohei Ohtani to be Shohei Ohtani in the postseason. I'm so excited just for the grand scheme of Shohei Ohtani in baseball. This is good for baseball.
Oh, yeah.
Shohei Ohtani in a postseason atmosphere.
That actually matters.
That matters because he's never been in the postseason.
No.
Ever. You know, he got a chance to maybe get traded last year, but he didn't. So this will be the first time you're seeing him in the postseason atmosphere. Think about the World Baseball Classic when he was there.
This guy clutches up in the tight moments.
Clutches up. That atmosphere was actually electric. That was one of my favorite World Baseball Classics I've ever seen with Shohei Ohtani versus Mike Trout in the finals. That was awesome.
Yeah, it was.
But we're gonna see it here in the MLB. I'm going to be watching Shohei Ohtani games. You know, we've been saying, like, damn, we're on the East Coast. We never get to watch Shohei Ohtani games. Now we can.
Well,
8 p.m. start time.
And I can assure you that we are going to be seeing, like, it's going to be highlight city from Ohtani.
Oh, yeah.
It really does feel like he's one of those guys who thrives in those big moments. And I do think back to that just electric at-bat between Mike Trout and between Shohei Ohtani where they bring him out. And, it kind of felt like the passing of the torch right there where it was like, all right, one GOAT handing the torch to the other GOAT. And it's like, you now continue, Ohtani. And he is doing it, everybody. Again, like 50 home runs, 50 stolen bases. That has never been done. That is an extremely hard feat to do. And it's honestly something that that could be a record that stands for a long time because often you don't see guys with that level of speed have as much power as 50 home runs. And then similarly, guys that have that much power often don't have that much speed. Shohei Ohtani is just a fucking unicorn.
The only guy that I could ever see that win healthy would be like Acuna.
Acuna in his like maybe best season,
prime.
Like when the power is all the way there.
Yeah.
You know,
where it's like you're seeing prime. This is prime Ohtani right now. He's like in it, and maybe Bobby Witt. But 50 homers is really tough
I don't know.
see.
I don't know if
I think
got
Bobby
50
could probably do 40-40 maybe one day. He's
in
still
his
so
MVP
young.
year.
He's still so young.
We
forget how young he is, so he's still got to build up that like man strength, which
right.
is crazy to say. But so those are the only dudes that can maybe touch that feat.
Maybe. I'm gonna take a look at it. I could be completely talking out of my ass. I'm probably talking. I was gonna say maybe Ellie De La Cruz. Honestly, maybe because he's 22 years old.
Right. Again, maybe he gets that power. Maybe he does roids.
Exactly. Then we're going 60-60, man.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Ellie De La Cruz 22 years old right now, so you never know. Maybe when he's 27, 28, and he's really filled out, like he's still got the speed, and he's just annihilating home runs, it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
But, again, 50-50, like something that's never been done before, it would just be such a beautiful moment if the guy to do it is Shohei Ohtani. I think that he's going to make that happen. And then, we're going to see him in the postseason popping off. And if the Dodgers have any chance, I think, of doing, like, finally, doing it again in a regular season, because everybody says that the Mickey Mouse Championship, Kobe or whatever, this would be a regular season. You do it for real. You win this whole thing. It's going to be because of this man right here doing what he does in the biggest moments.
They're going to need him to do it. And then, honestly, they need to get that pitching staff fixed because they just lost Kershaw, too.
Just throw this guy in there.
Yeah, dude.
Ohtani will do it.
That's the one thing that actually sucks. We're not going to see him pitch in the postseason.
I know.
That would have been so electric.
Yeah.
But they that's why I'm saying they have so many holes because their pitching staff is just I don't want to say shambles, but damn, it could be looking a lot better if they just did not get so injured, man.
Yeah, I mean, it is one of those things where like they've had to weather the storm for time. But when you look at their win-loss record, when you look at their last 10 consistently, they are always doing it.
If they were healthy, they'd have 100 wins. If they were fully healthy.
I think so, I do think so, man. But probably at this point with 82 and with 24 more games to go, something like that, doesn't look like anybody's going to be hitting that 100 win total.
No, they're not. So it should be a fun and exciting race down the stretch, guys. That is today's episode for Bad for Baseball on this Monday. You guys let us know in the chat if you're watching on YouTube what you think about all these races coming out of the end. If you're a fan, let us know what you're a fan of, and maybe we'll talk about your team a little bit more.
Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Hit that like, smash the subscribe button, and we will catch you next time.
Cheers.